Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. How are you? My name is Hadassah Charles McLeod. I'm your co-host for what's the name of this program again? Pep Talks in the morning. We haven't done it in so long, but it's good to be here. Uh, Today is Monday, the 20th of Friday, the 20th of May, 2022, and we have a special guest on the show this morning. Many of you know him as Opinion Box, but his given name is Adrian Jones. Adrian, how you doing? Good morning.
I'm really good, Hadassah. Hi, good morning. How are you? Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
I'm doing well. It's really good to have you on today. I really want to say special shout out to all our regular viewers. Guys, please share the video, share the live, let the numbers go up. Um, I wanted to have Adrian on the show today because he is one of the many voices about the state of our country, and I'm really happy to have him on. So, first of all, I want to ask you how you're doing because I know you were not well. I mean, it kind of was quite public. How are you doing now? How's your health?
Hmm. I'm alive. Praise the Lord for that.
Mm-hmm.
Kick COVID but I'm dealing with some chronic back pains, and it has kind of taken away my mobility in some cases. Certain days I can walk, other days I lose the ability to, but I'm still here. Still putting a smile on and still doing what I need to do. So
I
to
mean,
God
yeah,
be
you
the
gotta
glory.
you gotta keep kicking. So, is that do you see the lack of mobility? Was that exacerbated by COVID, or was that something you were struggling with before?
Nah, it was clearly something I got due to the stay in hospital. Um, they didn't really have much physiotherapists in the hospital to rotate us and massage our backs and stuff like that. So most patients, when they come out of hospital after their COVID stay, they end up with chronic back pain. Is a number one symptom you basically have when you come out of the hospital. You have a lot of
Oh, wow.
joint pains and stuff like that. So the two most known symptoms you have from coming out of hospital with COVID-19 is lung problems could somewhat continue. That's where they get the long COVID from, and you could have chronic back pains and joint pains. So I inherited the back pains, and
Okay.
they don't really know what is wrong with me. They just said they believe that I need to get a specialist to see my L1 and L2 vertebrae. So when I do have the strength, I move around with the assistance of a cane, but I pay for that the next 2 days by losing the mobility to move around. So
Wow.
this is what it is.
Well, with all of that happening, I thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning. Today,
Mm-hmm.
Trinidad and Tobago, you will see the question on the screen. Today's question is: does the village still exist in Trinidad and Tobago? In recent weeks, there has been a lot of uproar after the 2-year-old Kamani was found dead in a pool of water, and
Mm-hmm.
um, there was a lot of back and forth, people blaming the mother, people blaming the neighbor. But one thing that came out of it was a lot of people saying that it takes a village. And in light of recent developments where the whole country seems to be turned upside down because of all these allegations that are coming forward with abuse at the children's home, I thought
Mm-hmm.
I would ask the question because with all the information we have, there still seems to be an unwillingness to really do anything about it and to bring the perpetrators to justice. So we have to ask the question, does the village still exist? I mean, there is a lot that you can tell about a country in the way that they treat their elderly, in the way that they treat their women and the way that they treat their children. So, what is this situation saying about us, Adrian?
Hmm. Well, the village is still there, you know. The village is still there. It's just that the village the village has now adopted to letting a tablet or a device raise the children. You know, auntie, uncle, grandma, everybody's there still. It's just the economy itself is naturally so hard that we have both mommy, daddy, uncle, granny, everybody fighting to make a dollar to provide meals for the tables. So, so your child or the community now is a Samsung or a Alcatel tablet or a phone or iPhone and is Coco Melon and Peppa Pig raising your children, So there's very little that could be done in terms of seeing the community, and it takes a village to raise a child. The village is there. It's just the village has now replaced what they would normally do hands-on with a device and YouTube.
I mean, you make a very excellent point, but it also kind of speaks to the type of isolation that we have taking place now, where people have literally isolated themselves, separated themselves from communities, even their extended families, to the point where they're like, we don't want anybody in our business. We're doing this on our own, and then they adopt that same attitude towards other people's children. So what happens to other people's children is not their business. Whereas
Mhm,
back in the day, um, everybody have had an invested interest in what happened with their children, the neighbors' children, the children in the neighborhood, the community, etc.
mhm,
And I feel like we have lost that to a great extent. Now, in this controversy where everybody now is talking about the Stabga report, which was released since 1997, in this case, where the state was entrusted with taking care of vulnerable children, you're talking about children who lost their parents, so they're basically orphans, children who had to be removed from volatile situations where there was domestic abuse and things like that, or just children who having a bit of, behavioral problems.
mhm,
You would think that the state in this scenario is the village, and that it would be of utmost importance to take care of them and to protect them. But like we witnessed very recently when Philip did a video where a grandmother reached out to him because her 3-year-old granddaughter was in a very precarious situation, being abused, etc. And he called, was it what, Child Protective Services?
mhm.
And the response to that lets you know that as a country, we have not made protecting children a priority. Up to this day, we don't know what was the result in that case, but the lethargic kind of, laissez-faire, nonchalant response to hearing that a baby was possibly in jeopardy, in danger, and you kind of feel like, all right, so at this point, who then protects us? Who then protects our children?
Well, you see, the ecosystem that Trinidad has now adopted is there's no follow through with anything. Unless there is like a massa whip over people to do their jobs, there's no follow through. You would think that because there's a child involved, that child would be immediately prioritized. You would think that it would have a willingness to want to do something for this child, to support this child, to be there for this child. But children aren't prioritized. I would love, I would have liked a scenario where from the time you heard this was a child, a police unit would be mobilized immediately, sent to this home, questions would be asked, and stuff like that. But that would only work if the system worked properly. But it's not like that.
Exactly.
The
Exactly. I mean, go
mhm,
ahead. Go
the
ahead. Go ahead.
child protection units and children's authority, because I worked at children's authority, yeah,
I'm glad you
for a
got to
point of
that because
time,
that's what. Yeah.
and the child protection unit, the children's authority, and the police unit are three entities that operate independent on their own agenda. And I've always felt like that should have been under one umbrella. But the ecosystem of our country, in terms of government contracts and making money, we have land and housing, land and marine, HDC, Ministry of Rural Development, right? And local development. All those are separate entities. But when you really think about it, all of them technically fall under the same umbrella. They all have to do with development of the nation. So why aren't they one thing? The reason why it's not one thing is because by creating all these entities, you
Yeah.
basically create
More opportunities
work
for theft and corruption.
and
Yes.
for theft and corruption, for more
Yeah.
places for people to put their friends, for more people to put their partners to get a job, to get work. So
Hmm.
it's the same system between the Children's Authority, the Child Protection Unit, and the Police Protection Agency where children is concerned. It's the same thing. It's the same way how you have with the homes, you have you have the the church dealing with the homes, you have NGO dealing with the homes, you have Children Authority dealing with the homes. But what is the big role that the church actually plays? The church gets to put their name on the home, St. Jude's, Saint this, Saint that home, but what do they actually present? It's an
Exactly.
opening. It's an opening for them to gain money. It's an opening for them to receive charity. And that charity doesn't necessarily trickle down in most cases to the children. It doesn't. People line their
No, it
pockets and the children don't benefit from it. Um
no.
my time at the Children's Authority, one of the biggest issues I had was seeing the children not being educated. They had someone who would come in once every blue moon. And when I say a
Hmm.
blue moon, I mean like a blue moon. And they would just come and sit with the children. And these were big children, and they were teaching some of these children ABCs and one, two, threes. And these children already passed that stage. And
Yeah.
I began to notice that it had nothing put in place for these children
Yeah.
when the time comes. And when I saw that Philip did the interview yesterday with the lady, and she was explaining that most of these children, when it's time for them to pass out, right, they come out into society and it's like 2 or 3 days before they get released, they start running like headless chickens, calling who could take this child. You want this child about to finish at 18. Can you take this girl in by you? Can Because there's nothing set up to give
Yeah.
these children a start. We
Yeah.
have government buildings that would have plannings that would have been built and are not in use. We have houses that would have been built that is not in use. There's nothing to say, well, okay, will transition. These children will now transition from this home. We will set them up in let me just say, a government building or plannings with a one room or something. Give them the ability to start off there. Let them know, well, okay, you're going to be here for 6 months, 7 months, you're going to find a job, or to a year, you're going to stay here. And After the year, we're gonna put you in places where you could probably get a job. Even if you want to use your same government finances, your KFCs, your pizza boys and stuff, you set them up where you know they're gonna be guaranteed to earn an income and that they could start the journey off in life. But in most cases, there's nothing like that for these children. And now that we have these things coming out into the public domain, where we are seeing cases where children were being groomed for certain ministers and secret societies and behind closed doors and back dealings. It makes me question myself to wonder how many children were actually released from homes that ended up in other people's homes.
I mean, that is a very good question. It's also very scary as well. It's also very scary. I mean, generally, we see in Trinidad, we are not a country that looks to the future and we don't plan for anything. And I remember years ago, a pastor talking about the fact that it is important to have foresight and you shouldn't just see a 10-year-old now as a 10-year-old, but you should put 10 years on that child and they are a whole adult, and
Mhm.
it is what you do between age 10 and age 20 would make all the difference in their lives. And I kind of feel like these children in these homes, they already don't have families, they don't have communities. And I feel like the very least that the state could do is ensure that they could have at least a future. You understand? So I feel like the education programs in the homes should be very robust. It should be second to none. I mean, this is just probably my naive thinking, eh? But I can't understand how, as a collective, as a society, we will take vulnerable children and say, hey, let's do nothing and make them even more vulnerable. Right? And then no, and the thing about it is I laugh because I laugh at the hypocrisy because people are talking now about, children fighting in the streets and whatnot and whatnot. But I am not endorsing it. I'm not endorsing violence in any form. But we have literally removed our children's future. We have removed their hope. The children are angry. I, as an adult who know how to like process my feelings and my emotions and whatnot, I sometimes feel very hopeless and very angry. So what you going to leave for these children? So I'm thinking these children leave these homes when they're 18 or 19 or whatnot. They don't have much education. They don't have options in terms of employment. Aren't we then not responsible for the cycle of poverty and domestic violence and crime? Are we not then not churning out criminals or churning out victims?
We have a factory and we manufacture them. We have a factory and we manufacture them. And it's you said, oh, maybe it's your naive thinking, but it's not naive thinking. It's facts. Because it was hard for me when I sit and I looked at those children on a day-to-day basis while I was there. I couldn't. It was hard for me being a parent to come there, knowing the way that I interact with my boys and the things I would do with other people's children, and then I have to come into this place and switch off, because that is what they literally tell you to do. You have to switch off your feelings towards these children. You can't, because they try to tell you that the children are very manipulative. And yes, children could be manipulative, but I'm saying I'm an adult. I'm supposed to be able to know whatever possible tricks a child could try to pull on me. I'm an adult. So you trying to tell me desensitize myself to their looks and to things in their mind and stuff like that. I remember that when I was there was a situation where they had an overcrowding in one of the houses, and they had a couple of girls staying with us. and it had this young girl. She would she would she would express herself through drawings, and almost everything she drew, she would she would try to run and hide with it because the children would try to snatch it from her to show. But everything she drew was her thinking about killing herself.
Yeah.
Every single thing. And this
Yeah.
girl was probably about 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
Every single thing she drew was about thinking about killing herself. And
Yeah.
around that time, we had an incident where a young lady had been let go from the home. She had reached the time to move on. And instead of moving on, she broke back into the home
Hmm.
to stay because she was so warped in terms of reality. She couldn't begin to process the skills that was needed to cope
Yeah.
with the real
With life.
world.
Yeah.
That for her, the home was safer for her than to be out here. And she broke in not once, but more than once. She broke back into the home. And you see, the reality of it. When these young men had broken out from the home, I knew those young men. When I heard
Yeah.
that the police officers allegedly shot them for staying in the shack, one of those boys was going through a serious identity crisis. He wasn't sure if he was straight, if he was bisexual, if he was this. All these are issues that some of these children have. They are
Yeah.
children who came through. I remember there was one young man when I was there. He was sexually molested, right, by his family. Then what? Basically, his mom used to allow people to interfere with him
Wow.
for money, and for him to she would feed him snacks for him to allow it to happen. And he was so messed up that when you thought they took him from her to save him, it's because people in the home molested him also, and it
Wow.
gave him a mental breakdown. And when you thought he was going to be safe again, he went through sentence where somebody in sentence molested him again.
Yep.
So by the
Compounded
time he
trauma.
got there, he was in such a mess that you literally had to keep a special eye on him around the other children. When the children go to
Yeah.
bed, you would have to keep an eye on him. He couldn't go to the bathroom the same time. He couldn't be in the same room with them unsupervised. And was there any psychological help or any psychiatrist dealing with him on a one-on-one? No. He was just
You're on
there.
your own.
You're on
Yeah,
your
you're
own, and
basically on your
eventually
own.
he's gonna turn 18, and they're
Yeah.
gonna push him out of the system like normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I have to ask, does the village exist? Because the thing about it is, Adrian, we're sitting on this news today, right? And I feel like in any other country, people's stomachs would have been turned to the point where they would have gotten up, they would have mobilized, they would have been writing their senators and congressmen and marching and whatnot. And we just hear nothing.
Yeah, Iron Belly.
Nothing, nothing. And I have to ask myself, I mean, that's why Philip was always say hypocrites when a certain group of people take to the savannah to talk about Black Lives Matter. If the children in those homes were of a different hue and had different hair texture, would we care more? Right? Why is it okay? Why is it okay in every single scenario, right? That a certain group of people are relegated to the worst, and it's okay for them to be abused, it's okay for them to shoot each other and kill each other, it's okay for them to live in depressed communities, and we just go about our lives. Like if they are not human beings, like if their lives don't count. Why? Why is that?
because it do affect them. It only becomes a reality when it's at their door. And I can explain to you a simple thing as that. As of yesterday, the person who created Black Lives Matter is currently under investigation for buying her fourth mansion.
Oh
Her
yeah, yeah,
fourth
yeah.
mansion.
I saw that.
It
I
do it
saw
do
that.
affect them.
Yeah.
The people who stood up and bawled Black Lives Matter in the savannah, how many black people in Trinidad died before George Floyd? Where were them? With all this thing that is going on with Akil Chambers right now and all this evidence that is out there, where's
Yes.
Womantra? Where's the PNM Women's League?
Women's League, exactly, exactly. I was going to ask the question because they are always very vocal. I mean, Lema and I spoke about it. They're always very vocal when it comes to defending the nonsense that passes as government, but they're not there to talk about the real issue. Our president, Miss Weeks, is actually in England for the Queen's Jubilee celebration, right? We are yet to get a statement from her concerning this, right?
And we're not gonna
So,
get on.
all
And
right.
we're not
I
gonna
mean,
get
I
none.
I have been wrestling up. I'm like, I'm feeling like something is brewing under the surface. Like something is happening within the PNM. Like they're about to implode on themselves. Because whereas before people were very willing to like go to their graves with these secrets, all of a sudden they are coming out. They are coming out. All these secrets coming out.
Infighting going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we had Karen Nunez, Tashira, come out the other day and talk to the fact that, hey, there are big businessmen who are responsible for the narco trade in Trinidad and Tobago. And a lot of things are coming out now, even with the whole Akil Chambers and stuff like that, pointing to big people within the PNM and stuff like that. But even so, right? Even so, what are we going to do with this information? Are we just going to sit on it?
We sit on it for 2 decades. We sat on it. Listen, I am a person who, you see the term that was made by Diana where she said the most important resource was the human resource. It disgusts me now to say it after seeing her come out and saying she has a copy of this document in her possession for over 2 decades. This
Yeah.
is a woman who championed the rights of Trinidadian people, the human rights. She's a human rights activist.
Activist. Yeah.
She was in parliament as a senator and a human rights senator. She would
But
have
again, it's
benefited.
whose rights? Whose rights, Adrian?
Well, this
Because
is what I'm
apparently
saying.
it's only some people entitled to rights. I asked the question. If those children in the homes had blonde hair and blue eyes, would we care more?
No, listen. This doesn't boil down. This listen. These she would have lined her pockets with UNICEF money and human rights money and all these. And this is why I say pale skin privilege. All these pale skin people would be like, yeah, you're a human rights activist. Woohoo! Let's donate to your charity. Let's help you with this. And you will have to be naive to think that somebody go take a little bit out of the charity money. Nobody is that dumb. You will take a little something. Right. You would have benefited from this. And now Robert come out and talk his thing, and you're telling me you have this document 2 decades now. And you supposed to be a human rights activist, a child protection activist, but you sat on a document of children where child atrocities was taking place, and you
Taken
said
place.
nothing for two decades.
Yeah.
Two
I know.
decades.
I know. More politics, right? Because we go back to Robert Sabga, who is saying he's not going to name names. Now, I understand Trinidad is a dangerous place where you there, Adrian?
Yes, I'm right here. I think you're frozen, but I'm
Yeah,
hearing you.
sorry. Yeah, Trinidad is a dangerous place where, I mean, seriously, you could end up dead, you could end up in a ditch. But and there are steps now to protect people who have sensitive information, who could actually be like the turning point in getting justice. Can't we protect these people? I
Hmm.
I I I I don't know. I don't know. I mean, because that's why I keep asking the question, does the village still exist? At this point, you know of all these atrocities taking place in children's homes, children who we are supposed to be protecting, supposed to be cuddling, we're supposed to be making sure that we shield them as much as possible from the horrors of life. I mean, Robert, don't you think that that is important? Don't you think it is more important that these children get some justice than we protecting? Because again, it feels like if it is, the powers that be being protected again, like Mr. Millett, the reporter who would have spilled the story back in 1997. He would have written 6 articles in the Mirror. Um, he said even back then they were being protected. Is protecting certain people in our society more important than justice?
Hmm. Hmm. That is a really good question. That is a really good question. And the reality of it is, yes, for them it is. And the reason for that is because they and their friends enjoy the benefits of the dirty things that they are doing. I said
Yeah.
something last night. If and I use myself as an example. I said,
Mm.
if your type is slim women, if you start liking them young, when you get older, you're still gonna like them. Yes, it might have other sizes might come in between, but you're gonna always like them, right? I say I like thick women. It doesn't mean that a slim woman wouldn't get me excited, but my preference would always be thick women.
Right.
If you like children, after 2 decades, your flavor ain't change.
Yeah. Yeah, I was also thinking about lifestyles, like if and I'm talking about um more base vices and stuff like that. If you are somebody and you and your spouse you're all into swinging, trust me, you will know of all the groups that does swinging in Trinidad and Tobago. If
And
you're
this is what
in,
I'm saying.
yeah, if you live a homosexual lifestyle, you would know of all the clubs and stuff like that. If you are a pedophile, right, you will be aware of all the rings and all the groups
And this
where
is
this
why,
type of activity takes place.
and this is why
So,
I genuinely believe that Robert and Diane know way more than they're letting on. They might say that there's two big people in that were in government offices involved, but there are a bunch of other little ones too, right? There
Yeah.
are people who are in homes and stuff that are responsible. And you see, the problem with our country is this. We don't do no detective work in this country. We solve crime by flukes. That is how we do things here. Flukes. Something happened. We don't have detectives. We don't have people that are gonna follow the breadcrumb. And
Yeah.
in this case, you don't have to follow the breadcrumb because these people leaving whole loaves of bread on the ground, saying, "Yeah, look,
Look
that is
where.
a PDP bag of bread. Yeah, follow the PDP bread back to the
Yeah.
bakery, right?
But
These
Adrian, they
people,
also protect each other. They also protect each other. They are judges, they are magistrates, they are police superintendents, they are businessmen, they are high politicians and stuff like that. So they protect each other. They actually have systems in place. They have the money and the power in place to
mhm,
protect each other. It's only if like somebody betray whatever and they decide, all right, we throwing you to the
exactly.
wolves, um
And that
or
is why I
whatnot.
told people, I said the other night when I did the video about it, I said, who is greasing Robert? You sat on this for 2 decades.
That sounded a little perverse.
Who? Well, no, because we dealing. Come on, we are dealing with people who like to grease children. So who
Yeah,
is greasing Robert to talk after 2 decades? Because you gain nothing by this. Unless you're a person who you're noticing you're going down in age and you're trying to be relevant or you want a blue thumbs up. You have
yeah,
nothing to gain by coming after 2 decades to say this. The only
it's
thing
true.
this does is cripple a certain political camp. And you see, the people want to play devil's advocate and say, well, it's PNM, they're saying it's PNM ministers involved. But I'm not doing that. I am accepting that, yes, there's PNM ministers involved, but UNC is fully aware of who these people are also, and they said and did
Also,
nothing.
that is
So
true. I
the
mean,
truth
yeah,
is, if it is one side is trying to use Robert to cripple and damage the other side by bringing out this information into the public domain and hoping that the people on the ground, because this is a trigger to Afro Trinidadians, especially in ghetto communities. Akil Chambers was somebody from the ghetto, right?
yes,
Voices from the ghetto. So this now supposed to enrage ghetto people for them to understand this boy was one of we own, and now we finding out the PNM who sings "We love you so we take good care of
we
you"
take good care of you. Yes,
did not take care of this little boy. We took care of the people who interfered with this little boy and cover it up.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
all should be mad with them, right? And put your votes. And that is
yeah,
what I'm looking at this from that perspective. This is not
yeah,
about helping Akin Chambers. This is not about bringing him to justice. This is political mileage. The people
hmm,
who are trying to bring this to the forefront for justice is people like Phillip, like myself, a couple other vloggers, because we understand that what was done to this little child was wrong. These
yeah.
people in high society did not care. And if he
No,
was allowed to escape with this 2 decades ago, God alone knows how many more children might have passed under the hands or the
how
fingers
many?
of these people for the
Yeah,
last 2 decades. And now you have acting pensioner Jacob saying he going and form an investigative unit to go
yeah,
investigate something that took place 2 decades ago, right? And I am supposed to have confidence in this man when I see people robbing, stealing, shooting, and murdering people in broad daylight, and he can't even fix that.
right. Exactly. I mean, the whole thing is laughable. The whole thing is crazy. And then you have the Minister of Gender and Child Affairs saying that her priority right now It's not the 1997 Sabga report, but the work of the task force established to investigate reports of abuse at children's homes.
Don't
But
say
I'm
task
like,
force. Don't say task force. Let me use the word they like to use, the committee.
yeah, but I'm like, Ayana, the two are intertwined. You cannot deal with one and not deal with the other. If it was happening back then, and a certain group of people were involved, chances are they are probably still involved, right? So it is important for you to take this. But again, that is what the PNM is very good at. Deflecting, they're very good at, look over there, right? Don't focus on this here
And it's
or
probably more
issue.
organized now. It's probably more
Hmm.
organized.
Yeah, and
Because,
they become more powerful and everything.
Mhm. Yeah, because like I told somebody, if I went to steal stew chicken the first time out of the pot and I rest down the cover hard and my mother catch me and I get licks, I know next time when I go to thief stew chicken, rest down the cover easy. And that is the reality of what is going on here. These people are fully aware of what is going on in society. This is not no one or two random children. These people
Yeah.
are groping these children. And you see the reason why I've been telling people, look, I'm listening to the Prime Minister's wife saying gender affairs and all these different things need to be taught in school. And I've always told people, you want to teach gender affairs, but you don't teach life skills. We pump education. Yes, nobody's not saying education is important, but how many people we know have the 8 and the 9 and the 10 passes and work in KFC and stuff and can't even deal with the depression, anxiety, mental abuse, mental situations? They don't have life skills. They can't deal with real life problems on the fly. They can't think on the fly, on the go. And then you have places like what I was discussing with you earlier. You have Walt Disney promoting clothing now, reference for children, reference to the LGBTQ people. And I'm not saying that you can't have that lifestyle, but when you introduce my little child to this and you make my child feel like, okay, this is normal, right? When you have Walt Disney fighting against the governor of Florida because they are trying to pass an anti-groping bill that stops them from showing shows on Netflix and on Walt Disney like cuties. Imagine they are coming out with a show for children in the few weeks teaching children to dress like drag queens. And who
Hmm.
does this content appeal to? When I am a pedophile and I get to go onto Netflix or I get to go onto Disney and see a little child parade in a tootsie like a drag queen, I am sitting there and I'm licking my chops.
Yeah. Who is that
I'm
appealing to?
licking my
Exactly.
chops. Who is that
Exactly.
content for? And then now, when I
Exactly.
can't, when the urge for my desire builds up, just like any human being who desires a female or a male, when that urge builds up, and I know, okay, I need to satisfy my urge. I'm not going to look at a big woman or a big man if I'm into children. And if I know that there's avenues within the system that gives me access to a child and will
Yeah.
turn a
Of course they're
complete
going to take it.
blind eye to what I am doing. If I was ignored for 2 decades and you come in now to try to mess with whatever I've been doing for the last two
Why stop
decades,
now? Yeah. Why stop now?
why stop now?
Why stop now? Yeah. Why stop now? I mean, I feel like we've given the public a lot to think about this morning, but we always have to be very careful of agendas. We have to be so careful of who we support, what we support. Like I was telling you earlier, when I was very small and I didn't understand it, my mom was very, very particular about uh, content that I would watch, very, very particular about music that I listen to, very particular, whatever. And that is because these things, they plant subliminal messages in your brain about, what is right, what is wrong, whatever. And I mean, everybody have their own paths to follow, and everybody have to figure out it is what it is or who they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of feel so it matters. At the end of the day, it matters. Everything that you do, it matters. The parties that you support, it matters. The businesses that you support, and whatnot, because your support might literally be making it possible for the big and powerful to get away with certain things. When you continue to turn a blind eye, when you continue to say, well, no, that can't be so. um you know we're supposed to be so driven by wanting to get to the bottom of issues, by wanting to know the truth, that you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to tell yourself, you know what, let the chips fall where they may. I don't care who name get called. I don't care. You know, it should be in you. You just want right and justice to prevail. That you don't care if it's your party in the mix or whatnot, just that, I don't know, for once, some justice prevails. We have to
Exactly,
do better,
because
Trinidad and
where's the
Tobago.
uproar? Where's the uproar of the Afro Trinidadian community on this information about Achille Chambers? Why are we not surrounding Central Police Station and Bessel Street Police Station demanding that the police go and arrest these people? Why are we not writing Canada and telling Canada we want Roberts sent back to Trinidad? Because let me tell you something, as far as I'm concerned, the upholder is more guilty than the thief. Eh?
Of course, of
They had a
course.
job. They had a job. They did their job. They found their findings. They turned over their findings. And then they took whatever they took, and they could say whatever they want about all the document had clauses and this and that. You benefited from the silence of that document in some way, fashion, or form. You benefited
True,
from it. And I
true.
am not going to sit down and remain in la la land and absorb that you believe you did the right thing. You didn't do the right thing. You were given a job to protect these children and you
Yeah,
failed to protect them.
yeah. And I don't know what it is. Is he trying to absolve himself now? Is it weighing heavy on his conscience? Like when you're sitting down in the waving gallery of life, you're starting to wonder, the mistakes that you made and the regrets. Is that
So
it?
what you trying to say? You trying to say somebody touched his soul while he was praying to Jesus? That what you trying to say?
Hey, hear what? Rowley song get to him, eh?
So you're trying to say somebody touched his soul while he was praying to
Somebody
Jesus?
touch his
Because
soul.
that went something like you say, you know.
No, but is the whole idea of here half-assing it. This is what is bothering me. Why even say anything if
I
at
need
this
a
juncture,
I need a confirm nor deny.
yeah, why at this
He
juncture,
hate those two words, you know.
why at this juncture you will not just say this is it, these were the names that were involved at the time, this is the information that I have, I am willing to cooperate with the authorities. Why is that not your stance?
Exactly, and you're not here. You in Canada, one of the safest places in the world. You don't have to come back here. So why are you so afraid to just say what these people did and protect these children? Why? Because let me tell you something, eh? I made a statement, and last night I was just sitting here thinking about it after we had the discussion. I was just thinking, and I was saying, if God knew my heart, and I was trying to, this has been eating at me so bad for the last few days that I know it's going to be a topic on my platform for the rest of the week or more. If I was a sibling of Akil Chambers, if I was a cousin, uncle,
And yeah, yeah.
and I know I mix up in let me just say I am a member of a gang, or let me just say I society has dealt me a bad hand, and I am in that life, and I got to find out now that these people was responsible, and there are people who responsible for doing my cousin, my nephew, my whoever this. I am being honest with you. The wheels of justice might have led to me following these people around, finding out where they live in, where they line, where they does eat, where they does drink, and peshing when with a pass. Because
Yeah.
I would have now been convinced that you all hid this for 2 decades. This is the murder of my nephew. And you all are now asking me to depend on the TTPS and the government to do the right thing now. When 2 decades ago, the same people who sitting in parliament right now, who we now going and ask to try and fix the problem, they were there 2 decades ago.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is the unfortunate state of our country where, well, we know nobody gets justice in this country. There's no justice for Andrea. There's no justice for women. There's no justice for children. And it leaves you as the person who is in the blast radius of horrible things happening. It makes you feeling like, well, maybe I should be a vigilante, maybe I should take justice into my own hands. That is what you do to people when systems don't work, when systems are flawed, or when systems are just there to protect the powerful and the rich and things like that. It's it's very disgusting.
Yes.
It is very, very,
We had
very
a
disgusting. It's
Venezuelan
very
national,
disheartening.
we had a Venezuelan national raped and thrown out in the heights of our report the other day. Okay, the government can procure legislation to get no camera from one of the financiers. You're telling me that the government can run down to Price Mart and buy some cameras and run? You could probably try to find out who them same cable thief is, because them cable thieves seem like they could climb ladder real good, and give them a contract to put up cameras in the heights of report. But you're not gonna fix that. You're not gonna
No,
fix that because it doesn't affect you. We
not
getting to
just
find out.
affects. It's what Philip talks about, the fact that our country is deliberately broken. It has to remain this way because it benefits a few.
It benefits a
Um,
few. We have
and
Venezuelan
that is the
nationals showing up in
reality.
homes. These Venezuelan girls are showing up in children homes now, right? I am not going to remain in naive bubble land and think that there's not a specific group of men out there, wealthy men, big shot men, men in government, who have a flavor for these Venezuelan women. They are
Hmm.
very easy to be exploited for documentations because they don't want to go back home, because they are
Yeah,
fleeing refugees. And if you
yeah.
have access to a little child who might have came across here as a refugee, no family, no friends, no this, that, end up in the home, and you
God
convince her
help
that,
them.
listen, all you need to do, sleep with this government minister, your life will be better, you will be comfortable, be given things.
Yeah,
What is she to do if she knows there's nobody to come inside her there to save her?
yeah, yeah. I mean, the broken system allows for the factories to operate
I think the audio has dropped. Give her a little while, she'll join back you, right? But we have to ask ourselves a genuine question. If this is the society we really want for Trinidad and Tobago, if this is what we are going to continue doing, um, you know, you have to pay attention to the ecosystem that is taking place in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay, so she just messaged me and let me know her phone is frozen. Don't worry, the show will go on. I will carry on the show until you get back, right? I want you all to understand this. We have a situation here where our children are being groomed, right? And it is not a proper ecosystem or a proper cycle to what is taking place. We have to the highest level of government, right? To the highest level of government, where members of parliament are being involved in or allegedly involved in the groping and the grooming of little children, right? And as a society, we supposed to be in an uproar about this. We supposed to have the Black Lives Matter groups and the Womantrust groups and the Jericho Project groups and the advocates groups, and everybody supposed to come out in uproar for what is taking place right now, for the evidence and the information that is being put into the public domain right now. We supposed to have a nation crying and saying we demand justice for Akin Chambers. We want to know what is in those reports. We want those reports to be made public information. We supposed to be demanding that. We supposed to be reading in the newspapers about what took place with this investigative report with our children, right? We have to do that. And most importantly, we have to now get, build a society now that wants to seek interest in what goes on in these children homes. These children must now become, you can't say wards of the state no more. We have to naturally want to invest in what is taking place in our children's lives. We have to naturally want to be part of what is taking place in our children's lives. And we have to put a serious interest in what is going on into these homes. People need to be held accountable, right? Now, I feel a lack of confidence in anything that the government of Trinidad and Tobago does. Every committee that the government of Trinidad and Tobago has formed in terms of doing any investigation into anything that has taken place in this country has been a failure. They have failed with the gang intervention committee for when we had the riots for the burning. That committee didn't lead to anything. The COVID committee was a big farce that didn't lead to anything. We have the diverse committee now taking place right now, which is also not going to lead to anything. We have the Petrotrin committee taking place, which is also not going to lead to anything, right? And we now have the committee now that is being formed to look in, or the so-called task force that is being formed now to look into what is taking place with children. And I'm telling you, nothing is going to come out of that. What we need an entity. We need an entity we need a political party, we need a team to bring an external entity into Trinidad and Tobago. And that external entity must be able to operate outside of the laws of the TTPS. And I'm not talking about, I heard Gary Griffith saying they need to form an external unit, and this is what SORT was for. But let me tell you something. Even SORT could be corrupted by the ministers and the government in Trinidad and Tobago. We need an external entity to come into Trinidad and Tobago. We could bring the FBI, we could bring Scotland Yard, and these people mustn't answer to the Prime Minister or to the President, because we can't trust them. We can't trust them. We need, until we have a Prime Minister that is inside there, that is about change and about transparency and saving and protecting the lives of the Trinbagonian citizens, we cannot trust the people who we have in government right now. Because knowing what they have known for the last 2 decades and staying quiet about it, where this child report is concerned, it is very sad, it is very disgusting, and it's very disheartening to know that this was the end result of Akil Chambers. Right? So people, I don't know if I'm supposed to end the show. I know the show usually runs for an hour, right? And we just have hit the hour mark. So Hadassah, if wherever you are right now, I'm looking to wrap up the show because it seems like you're getting problems to get back in, right? So people, I will end the show on my watchwords, right? Which is make a better version of yourself every day. And the reason why I say make a better version of yourself every day is because if you could make a better version of yourself every day, that better version of you wouldn't allow things like Akil Chambers and what the government did for the last 2 decades, which was to stay quiet about the abuse of children and what was taking place in children homes, to happen. We have to become better versions of ourselves, and we need to stand behind something that could bring change. The Progressive Empowerment Party is real change. It is something different. We have done red, we have done yellow. We have seen a clear cut case where red and yellow has failed to protect our children in society. Are we going to sit down and wait for 2 more decades to pass for us to hear of another child atrocity or another story of where people were supposed to do a job to protect children and did nothing? That is what I want you all to ask yourself this morning. So today is Friday. You all have a beautiful Friday, right? If he is not a member of the Progressive Empowerment Party yet, sign up. If he is not a member of the Citizens Union yet, sign up. And remember, change starts with you. It doesn't start with them, it starts with you. So enjoy all your day and stay safe. Take care.